February 21st, 1965. Sunday afternoon. Harlem. The Audubon ballroom hums like a trapped wire. Coats brush, shoes scrape. Cigarette smoke hangs low. On the stage, a man steps forward, and 30 seconds later, he's bleeding on the floor. This is the moment Malcolm X almost escaped death. Almost. Because 10 feet behind the man who pulled the trigger stood Bumpy Johnson. And nobody in that room knew which side he was on. The clock reads 3:07 p.m. Malcolm grips the podium. The wood is cold under his palms. He scans the room, rows of faces, families, students, men with folded arms and eyes that don't blink. His throat is dry. Brothers and sisters. A shout cuts him off. Get your hands out my pocket. Chairs scrape. A body lunges. The sound cracks like a slap across glass. Malcolm's head snaps up. Confusion ripples. Fear rides it. And the first gunshot punches the air. Boom! A shotgun blast tears forward. Smoke erupts. Wood splinters. A woman screams. Malcolm stumbles back. He never sees the second man step out. Pop, pop. The pistol flashes. Short, clean, deadly. Malcolm's body jerks. His suit darkens at the chest. His knees fold. He hits the floor hard. For half a second, nobody moves. Then the room explodes. People rush the stage. Someone shouts for a doctor. Shoes thunder. A man slips in blood. Another crawls under chairs. And in the back, near the aisle, a thick-set man in a dark coat doesn't run. He doesn't shout. He watches. Bumpy Johnson stands still, hands at his sides, eyes locked on the stage, 10 feet behind the killer, close enough to smell the gunpowder. Here's what makes this moment burn. Malcolm wasn't supposed to be here. He had been warned. Threats stacked up for weeks. Friends begged him to cancel. He came anyway. Because he believed he could control the room. Because he thought danger would come from the front. What he didn't know, what nobody told him, was that escape was possible. 30 seconds. That's all it would have taken. A pause, a step back, a turn toward the side door. 30 seconds, and Malcolm X walks out alive. But something stopped him, someone, and that someone stood close enough to touch the killer's sleeve. The second shooter drops the pistol. It skids across the floor. Hands grab him. Fists rain down. The crowd swallows him whole. The first man tries to run. He doesn't get far. Bodies pile. Someone screams, "Kill him!" Bumpy still hasn't moved. His face is calm, almost tired. A man brushes past him. Another slams into his shoulder. Bumpy doesn't flinch. He's watching Malcolm bleed. Watching the seconds drain, watching history collapse. Ambulance sirens wail outside. Too late. The stage is slick now, red pooling under a black suit. Malcolm's eyes stare upward, unblinking. In the chaos, nobody notices Bumpy finally turn. Nobody sees him walk toward the exit. Nobody hears what he mutters under his breath. But what happens next? What Bumpy knew before the shots, and why he didn't stop it, changes everything. And that truth doesn't come from the stage. It comes from the street. 6 weeks earlier. Winter grips Harlem hard. Dirty snow piled at the curbs, streetlights buzzing like insects. Malcolm X walks alone down Lenox Avenue, collar up, breath fogging, no bodyguards. That's not courage. That's isolation. Since breaking from the Nation of Islam, Malcolm has been cut loose. Old allies won't answer calls. Former friends cross the street. Men he once trusted now watch him like strangers. Every step echoes. He knows he's marked. Malcolm rents a small apartment now. No grand offices, no big entourage, just a desk, a chair, and stacks of notes he rewrites every night. His wife tells him to rest. He shakes his head. Rest comes later. His children are asleep in the next room. They're breathing steady, innocent. That's the part that scares him. Threats arrive daily, letters with no return address, phone calls that hang up. Men linger in too long outside the building. One note is slid under his door. You're already dead. He reads it once, folds it carefully, puts it in his pocket. Not fear. Focus. Here's the truth most people miss. Malcolm didn't think death was coming from outsiders. He thought it was coming from his own. Former brothers, former protectors, men who knew his schedule, his habits, his exits. That betrayal sits heavy. It makes every room feel wrong. Now rewind to the Audubon Ballroom planning meeting. Folding chairs, cheap coffee, a chalkboard schedule. A young organizer says, "Security will handle it." Malcolm looks up. Who? The man hesitates. Local brothers, volunteers. Malcolm's jaw tightens. No uniforms, no guns, no confusion. Silence. Someone finally asks the question nobody wants to say. Should we cancel? Malcolm doesn't answer right away. He looks at the empty stage. Then, if I stop speaking, they win. What Malcolm doesn't know, what he can't see, is the other conversation happening across Harlem in a quiet back room. Thick smoke, low voices. A name is spoken. Malcolm. And when that name lands, the room goes still, because everyone knows what it means. This is where Bumpy Johnson enters the story. Bumpy doesn't love Malcolm. He doesn't hate him either. But Malcolm's speeches are stirring things up, bringing heat, drawing eyes from downtown. That's bad for business and worse. It's bringing outsiders into Harlem who don't ask permission. Bumpy sits back, fingers steepled. Who's handling it? He asks quietly. No anger, no excitement, just a question. A man answers, "It's already moving." Bumpy nods once. He doesn't ask for details. That's not his way. Back at the apartment, Malcolm sharpens his words. He practices out loud. Short sentences, clear punches. He's not trying to inspire today. He's trying to survive long enough to finish the thought. He writes one line and underlines it twice. We are not afraid. His hand trembles just once. The night before the speech, Malcolm doesn't sleep. He sits in a chair by the window, coat on, shoes still tied. Every car that slows makes his pulse jump. He thinks about exits. Left side door, right stairwell, back hallway. He tells himself, stay aware. That's the plan. Sunday morning arrives anyway. Malcolm kisses his children goodbye longer than usual. His wife watches him closely. You're coming back, she says. Not a question. He nods. I always do. But even as he steps outside, he feels it. That tightness in the chest. That sense of walking into a room where the decision's already been made. By the time Malcolm reaches the Audubon Ballroom, he believes one thing. If something happens, it'll be loud, it'll be obvious, and he'll see it coming. That belief, that single mistake, is what puts him on that stage. And what he doesn't know yet is that the most dangerous man in Harlem is already inside the building. Inside the Audubon Ballroom, the air is thick and warm. Too many coats, too many bodies. The smell of sweat and cigarette smoke clings to the curtains. Malcolm stands backstage, adjusting his tie. His hands pause. Something feels off. Not fear, pressure. Like the room is holding its breath before a punch. A volunteer leans in. Young, nervous. 5 minutes, Malcolm nods. Open the side door. The kid hesitates. Sir? Just do it. The volunteer walks off. He doesn't come back. Out front, the crowd shifts. Chairs scrape. People whisper. A man coughs hard and doesn't stop. 2 men sit near the front row, coats buttoned, hats low. One keeps rubbing his palms on his trousers. The other stares at the stage without blinking. In the aisle, Bumpy Johnson leans against the wall. Quiet. Still. His eyes move slowly, counting exits. Backstage, Malcolm steps toward the curtain. A man beside him says, "You ready?" Malcolm answers without looking. "I've been ready." The curtain parts. Light floods his face. Applause rises, then settles into a nervous murmur. Malcolm walks out. Each step feels heavier than the last. He reaches the podium, wood, solid, familiar. He grips it. The crowd quiets. Malcolm looks left, then right. He spots faces he knows. He also spots ones he doesn't. Men too still, eyes too sharp. He clears his throat. "Brothers and sisters," a sound cuts him off. Metal scraping fabric. Malcolm's eyes flick toward the front row. One man is leaning sideways. Another is halfway out of his seat. Malcolm pauses. The room tightens. Someone laughs nervously. Near the aisle, Bumpy shifts his weight. Just a little. His hand brushes the inside of his coat. He doesn't pull anything out. He's watching timing now. Malcolm raises his hand. "Please," he says. "We'll begin." A woman shushes her child. The first row settles. For half a second, it looks like control is back. False calm. Then the shout, "Get your hands out my pocket." 2 men stand at once. One lunges, chairs tip. Someone yells. Malcolm steps back from the podium. His heart slams against his ribs. This is it, he thinks. But not yet. The first gunshot is deafening. A shotgun roars. The blast tears into the front of the stage. Wood explodes outward. Smoke fills the air. People scream. Malcolm staggers. His mind races. Move. Side door. He turns and freezes because the second man is already there. Pistol raised. No shouting, no anger. Just a calm squeeze of the trigger. Pop. Malcolm feels heat rip into his chest. Air leaves his lungs. Another shot. Pop. His legs weaken. From the aisle, Bumpy sees it all. The shotgun smoke. The pistol flash. The exact second Malcolm could still move. 10 feet. That's the distance, close enough to act, close enough not to. Bumpy doesn't move. The pistol clatters to the floor. Someone tackles the shooter. Fists crash down. Shoes stomp. Blood sprays. The first man tries to run. He makes 3 steps, then disappears under bodies. Malcolm hits the floor, hard. The sound is dull, final. He tries to breathe. Nothing comes. The ceiling spins. Faces blur. Bumpy finally steps forward. Slow, measured. He looks at Malcolm on the ground. Looks at the chaos. Then at the men swarming the shooters. He turns his head slightly, listening. Sirens. Distant but coming fast. Here's the moment nobody sees. As Bumpy turns away, a man grabs his sleeve, panicked, wide-eyed. "You gonna do something?" Bumpy looks at him. His voice is low. "It's already done." He pulls free, walks toward the exit. What the crowd doesn't know, what Malcolm never realizes, is that this wasn't chaos. It was timing. And the man who understood timing better than anyone was standing close enough to stop it, but didn't. And the reason why, the real reason, is worse than the bullets. Here's the part nobody tells straight, because the truth doesn't sound heroic, and it doesn't make anyone feel clean. 2 nights before the shooting, a back room above a bar near Small's Paradise. The windows are blacked out. Jazz leaks up through the floorboards like a heartbeat. Bumpy Johnson sits at a round table. No gun on the table, no threats in the air, just men talking business. A runner stands near the door, young, sweating. He clears his throat. It's set for Sunday. Bumpy doesn't look up. Who's handling it? The runner hesitates. Men from inside. That's when Bumpy looks up, slow, sharp. Inside where? The kid swallows. The movement. Silence drops heavy. Bumpy leans back. So this isn't an outsider hit. Not police, not Italians. Family turning on family. Bumpy exhales through his nose. Where? Audubon Ballroom. This is the moment, the one everyone assumes Bumpy must have stopped it. Because he could have. He had men everywhere. Doors, aisles, streets. One word and it's done. But Bumpy doesn't give the word. Instead, he asks one more question. Who benefits? No one answers. Because everyone in that room already knows. Malcolm isn't just a speaker anymore. He's a problem. Too loud, too unpredictable. He's pulling attention into Harlem that doesn't leave. And worse, he's breaking lines that kept things stable. Bumpy rubs his thumb against the table. Any chance it's noise? He asks. The runner shakes his head. Duco, orders came down clean. Bumpy nods once. That's all. Here's the twist. Bumpy doesn't greenlight the hit. But he doesn't stop it either, because stopping it means choosing a side. And choosing a side means war, with people who already want blood. Sunday arrives. Bumpy walks into the Audubon Ballroom early. He stands near the aisle on purpose, not hiding, not guarding, watching. He sees the men. He knows the faces. Not personally, but the look. Tight jaws, still eyes. Men who already made peace with what's about to happen. When the shout goes up, when the shotgun fires, Bumpy's body tenses. For a fraction of a second, his hand moves. Inside the coat. This is the moment history almost bends. 10 feet. That's the distance. He could rush. He could grab. He could shout. And if he does, Malcolm lives. But then Harlem burns. Because the second truth hits Bumpy at the same time. Malcolm isn't the target. He's the message. And messages don't need to live. They just need to be loud. The pistol fires. Malcolm falls. The crowd surges. Bumpy lets his hand fall away from the coat. Decision made. Outside, sirens scream. Bumpy steps into the cold air. Snow crunches under his shoes. A man runs up to him breathless. You knew, the man says, accusation sharp. You knew this was coming. Bumpy doesn't stop walking. I knew it was possible. That's the same thing. Bumpy stops, turns, looks the man dead in the eye. No, he says quietly, it ain't. Here's the cost of that choice. Within hours, the streets explode with rumors. Some say Bumpy ordered it. Some say he tried to stop it. Some say he stood there and watched a man die. All of them are wrong, and all of them are right. Later that night, Bumpy sits alone. Lights off. Glass of whiskey untouched. He replays the moment. 10 feet, that's what keeps circling. Not the gunshots, not the blood, the space. Because here's what nobody expected. Malcolm didn't die quietly. He died loud. And the fallout doesn't land on his enemies first. It lands on Harlem, on alliances, on men who thought silence was safety. And Bumpy knows something now that he didn't before. By not choosing a side, he chose one anyway. And the bill is coming due. Soon. Night falls hard over Harlem. Rain slicks the sidewalks. Neon bleeds into puddles. Sirens fade, then come back, then fade again. Inside a narrow apartment, a man who helped plan the shooting sits alone. His name doesn't matter. His hands do. They won't stop shaking. He keeps replaying it, the shout, the blast, the second gun, and the part that won't leave him. Bumpy Johnson standing there watching, not stopping it. A knock hits the door, soft, then harder. The man freezes. Another knock. He reaches for a drawer. Fingers fumble. Cold metal presses into his palm. "Who is it?" he croaks. A calm voice answers, "Friend." The man laughs, sharp and broken. "Ain't no friends left." Silence. Then, "Open the door." Something in the voice makes his stomach drop. He opens it. Two men step inside. Big coats, wet collars. They don't pull guns. They don't need to. One of them closes the door gently. The other looks around the room. "Messy business," he says. The man backs away. "I didn't order it. I just passed word." The first man nods. "That's enough." Here's the payoff. The shooting didn't bring peace. It brought exposure. Everyone involved is now visible, and visibility is death. The man drops to his knees. "Please," he says, "I was told it was protected." The second man crouches down. "Protected don't mean forgiven." A single shot cracks the room, short, final. Blood spreads across the floor, dark and quiet. Across town, Bumpy Johnson hears about it before midnight. One of his men reports in. Low voice, respectful. "It's starting." Bumpy nods. "How many?" "2 already, more coming." Bumpy exhales slowly. Not relief, acceptance. Here's the irony. By staying neutral, Bumpy didn't avoid bloodshed. He delayed it, and now it's worse. Because nobody knows who's safe. Over the next 48 hours, the reckoning spreads. Men disappear. Doors stay locked. Phones go unanswered. Every rumor feels true. Every shadow feels armed. And nobody says Malcolm's name out loud. They don't have to. It's written in the silence. Late one night, Bumpy stands alone on Lenox Avenue. Rain drips from his hat brim. A young man approaches him, angry, bold, stupid. "You let it happen," the kid says. Bumpy looks at him. Long. Then speaks. "You think stopping it would have saved him?" The kid hesitates. Bumpy steps closer. "You think it would have saved you?" The kid swallows. Backs away. Bumpy turns toward the street. Cars roll by slow. Harlem breathes. Wounded but alive. Here's the final image. The most powerful man in the neighborhood, standing alone, knowing the one thing he didn't do will follow him longer than anything he ever did. Monday morning comes gray and heavy. Newspapers slap onto stoops before sunrise. The headline is everywhere. The ink is still fresh, but the damage is already permanent. People stop on sidewalks to read. Hands tremble, some shake their heads. Others fold the paper and keep walking. Faster than usual, nobody lingers. At the Audubon Ballroom, the doors are locked. Police tape flaps in the wind. Red, white, blue. Inside, the stage is scrubbed clean, but the floor still smells like metal and bleach. A janitor pauses near the podium. He stares at the spot, then looks away. Witnesses talk in pieces, short sentences, no names. "I heard the blast. I hit the floor. Men everywhere." Nobody mentions Bumpy Johnson, not because they didn't see him, because they don't want to. In apartments across Harlem, mothers keep children home from school. Shop owners open late. Doors stay bolted longer than usual. This isn't mourning, it's caution. One man's life is changed forever. Not Malcolm's. He's already gone. It's the shooter who survived. The one dragged down by the crowd. The one pulled bleeding into a police car. He sits in a cell now. Face swollen, eyes shut. Every sound makes him flinch. A detective leans against the bars. "Who backed you?" he asks. The shooter laughs. Dry. Broken. "You think I'm telling you that?" The detective shrugs. "You think they'll let you live long enough not to?" The laughter stops. By afternoon, the shooter understands the truth. Prison isn't the danger. Silence is. Because out there, someone is already deciding whether he breathes another week. Across town, Bumpy Johnson receives visitors, men who want reassurance, men who want permission, men who want protection. Bumpy gives none of it. He listens, then sends them away. That night, Bumpy sits by the window, lights off, street noise drifting up. He pours a drink, doesn't touch it. For the first time in years, Harlem feels smaller, more fragile, like one wrong move could crack it open. The shooting didn't just kill a man, it changed how people look at each other, who they trust, who they fear, and who they blame. And tomorrow, the real consequences begin. Harlem doesn't explode after Malcolm's death. It tightens, like a fist. People stop arguing in public. Men stop standing in doorways too long. Conversations end when strangers walk close. The streets learn a new rule. Silence lasts longer than speeches. For Bumpy Johnson, something changes that can't be undone. Before, fear worked. Now doubt does. Men wonder what neutrality really means. They replay that distance, 10 feet, over and over. Not asking, could he have stopped it? Asking, who else won't he stop? That question lingers. For Harlem, the loss of Malcolm X leaves a hole that doesn't close. Not because of politics, because he said things out loud. And when a man like that is silenced in public, everyone else learns to whisper. Here's the cost nobody talks about. The shooters don't become martyrs. The planners don't gain control. They vanish, quietly, one by one. And the survivor in the cell? He never testifies. He knows better. Years later, people still argue about that afternoon. Some say Bumpy made the only choice possible. Some say he made the worst one. But the truth sits in the middle. Bumpy didn't pull a trigger. He let time do it, and time doesn't miss. Final image, a Harlem street at dusk. Storefronts closing, lights flicking on. Life moving forward, but never the same speed again. Because everyone remembers the lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous decision is the one you don't make. If this shocked you, wait until you hear who finally stood up to Bumpy and paid the price. Drop a comment. Would you have stepped in? Subscribe. Because Bumpy's most dangerous enemy wasn't a gangster. It was someone closer,